Also, if I hope throw our flyer in the chat, that would be awesome. Now, our second speaker for the Speaker Jam is BK, and BK will be speaking on the topic of love and recovery. And real quick, Colleen, do you want to introduce BK?
Yes, I heard BK speak, and he has much recovery. The first time I heard him speak, he touched my heart, and I could relate to a lot of things that he's been through, and he's also been through a lot of things that I haven't been through. He's taught me a few things, a few tricks that I could use in my recovery, and I appreciated him. And then I heard him speak a few other times in a few other places, and I thought he'd be great, and I was very happy that he could come speak for us today. So without further ado, BK, unless you want to say anything.
Let me hop out here. I don't know where I am right now. So it's going like, oh man, this is kind of like a tight morning. It's Mother's Day weekend, and I take my son to karate every Saturday morning. Right, that's one of the things I get to do as a result of recovery. So right now, I just pull up into some random parking lot in the industrial area of my town. Man, this is about, because the best part of this is like normally I'd have met someone in a place like this for something totally different, something deviant, something criminal, something along those lines. But today is because I just need a place to pull over where I can gather some serenity and hopefully not be bothered. I mean, it looks like the place is closed, so we probably be all right. And Brett, I'm an addict, and I'm gonna start how I always start by first saying that I used for 20 years. I've been clean for just over 12, like 12 and a half ish, something like that. Um, and the message in Narcotics Anonymous is hope, but the promise of freedom that any addict can lose the desire to use. Any addict can lose the desire to use and find a new way of life. Any single addict, right? Any of them. Anything you hear past this is my experience, my understanding. Probably not any opinions because I don't really like to do opinion stuff. It's not really my thing. But if you don't like what I had to say, you can share. You can tell me after. Get my number, call me, text me, whatever. But probably better off calling your sponsor. Just saying. Anyway, so the topic is I don't speak on topics all that often. If I get asked to speak on a topic, it's usually like a just for today or a spiritual principle. Most of the time, it's steps or traditions. A lot of times, people ping me for traditions. So I love the traditions, and I'm gonna kind of talk about that a little bit because the thing is that the traditions really taught me how to love. Right? The traditions taught me how to love. The steps they taught me how to live. Right? They told me how to kind of like go through my day to day without making more problems, right? How to trust and have a higher power in my life that loves me and these kind of things, right? But the traditions taught me how to interact and exist with other people, right? And that's really the truth of the matter is that on a day to day basis, most of my interactions involve other people, right? It's very rare that I am just solo dolo on anything. You know what I mean? Most of the time, it's like me and my kids, me and my woman, or all of us. Miniature societies, right? Members of Narcotics Anonymous, whatever it is. And the truth is that in order for me to allow these people in my life and allow me to be amongst these people, I had to learn how to love. I had to learn how to experience others in a way that's conducive to progression in these little mini societies, right? Because otherwise, I mean, listen, any situation you're ever in with anybody, if I can't connect with them on any level, there's not really going to be anything. It's not going to be positive. It's not going to be a relationship, whether it be business, work, romantic or otherwise. Most of the time, when people hear the word love, the first thing they think of is like, a significant other, right? That's the first thought they have, right? And I'll tell you very simply, I had to learn to love outside of that before I could come anywhere close to being in any kind of emotionally connected, loving relationship with a person of, with a significant other into it. I don't want to say like opposite sex because that's not always the case. The simplest thing I can tell you is that Narcotics Anonymous taught me that I am lovable, right? And not because they told me so. It wasn't because they told me they were going to love me until I learned to love myself or any of that shit. It's because they told me that what my disease was telling me was not true. Right? That's what they told me. They told me in not so many words that what my disease was telling me wasn't true. right? I'm not the monster that he said I was, right? All these things that I was doing and I've been doing, and horrible things to myself, things to other people, they were compulsive. They were things I could not control. Once the drugs are in my system, I no longer have any kind of, there's no say in it. I have no say in it. So, there was no ability to love because my disease didn't want me to love or be loved, right? And the first thing I really needed to learn to do was trust that something loved me. Anything, just whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what a higher power is. All I understand of it is what they first told me is that it's loving, caring, and greater than me. I don't know its name, so I call it God. I call it God, right? And that's what my friend Vincent says. I don't know God. I don't know my higher power's name, so I call it God. The same way, if I saw you in the street, I would call you sir or madam, right? Because I don't know your name. It's just a matter of respect. And I had to come to believe. For me, I had to come to believe because we don't have to. It just says we came to believe, right? It doesn't say you have to come to believe that there was a higher power. There was a power that was greater than me, that was loving and caring and loved me. And that was my first step into love. It didn't say I had to, I didn't have to love it back. I didn't have to show any kind of appreciation towards it. I just had to understand that maybe there was something that loved me. I had to key in on that. I had to key in on that. And that really opened the door to a lot of things, slowly, gradually, because believe me, I was very reluctant. I was not only reluctant, I was resistant. I was resistant to the idea of loving someone or allowing someone to love me for a lot of reasons. Most of them were unbeknownst to me because I hadn't done any any introspective thinking short of what a piece of shit I am for a really long time, like a really long time. And the first step to that was admitting that I was powerless over what I was thinking at that point. Now, here's the thing: over time, I haven't learned to gain power over my thinking. What I've learned is that I can only consciously think of one thing at a time. Right? I can only consciously think of one thing at a time. So if I'm consciously thinking of something that I don't want to think about, I can choose to think about something else. Now, I can force focus, even if I'm just thinking about numbers, like counting the 30 and imagining and visualizing the number, what it looks like, what shape, what it's made of. Is it made of wood or metal? Right? Like, do the numbers smell like something? Whatever it is, forcing my focus elsewhere has allowed me to gain something of resistance to my disease's ability to enact control over all my thinking, right? This was all key. There's all these things that are key to progression towards allowing myself to love and love somebody and all these things. And I tell you what, like love and humility go hand in hand, right? Because I'm not the best. Like I'm not so great that everybody should love me, but I'm not so shitty that nobody should love me, right? I'm just some guy, and some people are gonna love me, some people aren't, and that's okay. I don't really need everybody to love me, right? But I don't need everybody in Narcotics Anonymous or anywhere else to love me. I would prefer that my children love me, right? I would prefer that my woman loves me, but that's not necessarily 100% going to be the case, right? And learning acceptance and understanding and empathy and all these different things, they allow me the opportunity to have those people in my life in a way that might be loving, right? But that's not always necessarily the case. For the better part of the first 3 years, at least, of me being clean, I did a lot of stupid shit, right? And I prayed constantly that, I would literally pray that God would put something in my life, someone in my life that I could love, and that who loved me, and these kind of things. But I didn't understand what the fuck that meant. So what was I praying for? I had no idea what that meant. That'd be like a caveman praying for a car. He don't know what a fucking car is. Why is he praying for a car? He doesn't even know how to drive or anything. So what's he praying for a car for, right? Like I had no idea what to do with love. I didn't know who to love, how to love, or anything like that. So I kept doing my best impression of what I thought love was, which was, putting certain parts of my body in people that didn't belong. And that was not love. That was just making more problems. Lust makes a lot of problems for me. If I let lust spearhead the situation and basically let my disease take control of whatever it is. And the truth is that I engaged in a lot of really dangerous behavior, right? Especially in Narcotics Anonymous. And and the truth is, like, anybody who would be interested in me in the first 3 years I was clean, they had to be fucking crazy because I was out of my mind. I was completely out of my mind. Like, there was no like in between. I wasn't in a gray zone. I was crazy. Like, I was straight up nuts. And like, if somebody would be attracted to me at that point, it either had to be purely physical, or like there was like maybe one or three things. Either they were just really physically attracted to me, or they thought, yeah, your car needs to be that loud. What a fucking idiot. Anyway, or like they either physically attracted to me, they thought they could fix me, or they were probably just as crazy as I was. Right? That was really the only three things that could have possibly been. So like realistically, there wasn't really a whole lot of people. Let me rephrase it. There wasn't really a whole lot of like significant othership in my life at that point. But what I needed to learn was what my sponsor told me, right? If I can keep a house plan alive, I can probably start thinking about having relationships, but not romantic relationships. Relationships like friendships, right? Relationships like sponsorship, right? Like these kind of things. And I had a sponsor, but I didn't know what it was to be having a relationship with my sponsor. I would tell him shit, but I had no understanding of why I was telling him stuff, right? I would go through steps with him, but I didn't really understand what I was doing. He would explain it to me, but it was like he may as well have been talking in like with a pillow stuffed over his face because I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. I couldn't hear him. I couldn't understand. And it really came down to the fact that I didn't have the willingness yet, right? I wasn't open-minded yet. And a lot of people come to Narcotics Anonymous thinking they're very open-minded people. They think they're very open-minded until they're presented with something that doesn't fit their narrative, right? Or it doesn't fit what their disease has been telling them all this time. And then all of a sudden they become very close-minded, very, very close-minded very quickly. And a lot of times that happens when it comes to like, dating and stuff, right? Like I'll have, this happens to me a lot, like with sponsees, like they have like 6, 7, 8 months clean or something like that, and they meet a girl. And the second you try and tell them something about why it might not be the greatest idea or help them see why it might not be the greatest idea, well, dude, you met that chick while you were doing an H&I presentation. That's probably not the best call. You probably shouldn't take a girl out of rehab and, put her on your docket, right? Like you should probably give her some time and some space to recover on her own before you engage in some stuff like that. And I don't know if that's a true story or not. It might be. It probably did happen that way, but I can't quite remember if that's something I heard from someone else or heard from a sponsee. But things like that have happened with my sponsees and with people I love, right? With friends of mine, right? Like people with a lot of clean time, right? Doing some silly shit, like engaging with people that A, they have no business engaging with, and B, who are purely harmful for them. Or maybe that they're purely harmful for, right? Like, cause that's the thing. Like, I may be clean for a while and I may have some steps and traditions behind me, but you better believe I can harm someone the same way I did at day one, at day zero, right? I still have the propensity to harm myself and harm others. In fact, that's still the default, is to harm myself, right? I still have to work not to harm myself. I still have to actively protect myself from my disease. And I will always have to actively protect myself from my disease because it's not going anywhere. And it doesn't love me, right? In fact, if I had to guess, I'd say it's the antithesis of love. It's probably the exact opposite. All it wants to do is harm me and separate me from everything and everyone. There's love in recovery, but there's not love in addiction, right? And that's a really important thing for me to understand. If I use, not only does my recovery go out the window, cease to exist at that exact moment, but so does my ability to truly love myself. Because if I'm poisoning myself, can I truly love myself? Purely and completely love myself? Maybe I still do love myself a bit, but there's an element of me that is now under attack by me. So how much can I truly love myself at that point? No one will ever treat me better than I treat me. No one will ever treat me better than I treat me. If I can't learn to treat myself with respect, dignity, integrity, trust, honesty, compassion, empathy, patience, and tolerance, if I can't treat myself with those things, no one will treat me with those things. Maybe they will for a while. Maybe they'll treat me with one of some of those things, maybe with most of those things. But there will be an element that not only is missing, but they won't feel is necessary to provide for me or with me because I don't do it for me. If I want those things in my life, I better damn well learn to put them in my life for myself. I can't expect somebody else to bring them to the table. I once heard it said that, like, you don't come with an empty cup expecting someone else to fill it. You come with your own full cup to the table. You got to drink together. Maybe, not, maybe you drink a soda. You know what I mean? Whatever. It's not the point. You come with your full cup of coffee to the table. Don't expect somebody to fill yours with their carafe. That's not how it works. But love and recovery has been an interesting thing. Like, look, man, when I got clean, I was a violent sociopath to the, almost in a purely actual medical sense. I didn't have any ability to love anybody except like the drugs. And that wasn't love, that was obsession. And it was really just to deal with the devil I was making on a regular basis to just basically kill myself. And I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to emotionally connect with anybody. I couldn't emotionally connect with myself. I didn't know what I was feeling most of the time because it all just felt like rage. And I had to learn to take that stuff apart, right? I had to learn to start to understand where it was coming from. I had to learn to understand what my brain was doing to me. I had to learn to anchor myself to reality. I had to learn a lot of things. It took upwards of, like, I don't know, 4 years before I could even start to consider getting into any kind of dating relationship. And even then, it was probably not a great idea, but, my higher power seemed to think it was. I had put myself on like a year-long dating and, sexual contact ban, as it were, right? The thought I kept putting into my head was like, I don't want to do that. And at the end of that year, I started talking to this girl who was going through something really painful. She was going through something really painful. And instead of like being like, why would you feel that way? You're so friggin' hot. Instead, what I did was tell her, like, listen, I understand. I've dealt with pain like that before. I deal with pain like that. And I understand what it is to have your mind attack you and make you feel like life isn't worth living. I understand the pain that you're feeling right now. I met her with empathy and compassion. Of course, she was beautiful, but that wasn't my thought. My thought was, first off, I'm not trying to get involved with anybody. Second off, she's way too hot for me anyway, so there's no chance she's going to be interested in me. And the third thought was, and really, this was probably the true first thought. She wasn't okay and she needed my help. God put her in my life so that I can help her find clarity about herself the same way I did. God put her in my life so that I can help her heal the same way I've been allowed to heal, right? And all I did was meet her with the same empathy and compassion. I used like literal Narcotics Anonymous terminology to help her center herself. And what ended up happening was we fell in love over the course of 9 months on the phone, never having been in each other's presence physically. And about 9 months in, we hung out on Christmas Eve for like a little while. She was going to just come over and say hello, wish me a Merry Christmas. We had our first kiss that night. And then 7 years later, to the day, almost to the hour, our son was born. Right? He's sitting in the back seat of my car patiently waiting for me right now. And when they told me that my son might not ever speak, he might not ever ask me for a glass of water, he might not ever play a sport or even roll a ball, let alone throw a ball. When they told me all these things about my son, it hurt. It hurt because I loved him. I love him dearly, more than probably anything I've ever loved. I think the only thing I've ever loved more than him is his mother, right? And it's only because I love her differently and the same. But I had something else. I had a love of a higher power. And when I prayed and I said, please do these things to me, don't do them to him, my higher power would tell me he's fine. Don't worry about it. Just love him like I told you to love her. Just love him like I told you to love her. Like I told you to love your daughter. Like I told you to love these people. Just love him. And just a couple of months after they told me things like this about my son, one day we were in the living room and he started looking at his water bottle and pointing, which they told me he wouldn't do. I said, what's going on, Bubba? What do you need? He's like, Daddy, I want water. And he's never stopped showing me that they didn't know what they were talking about. He never stopped showing me that love is the purest, most beautiful thing you could probably have. But he's also never stopped showing me that it needs fostering. It needs attention. It needs appreciation and gratitude. It needs humility. It needs understanding and empathy and compassion. It needs all the things we learned to do here in Narcotics Anonymous. It's the things that I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do and that I get to do every day. Anyway, I imagine I've gone for long enough at this point. So I'm going to shut up, get back and talk to my son and get to listen. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to share. And if there is a sharing portion, don't share about me, man. Share about what's going on with you.